So you can walk
Yeah.
around, there's beautiful things, there's kung fu, but the whole culture like is about focus, and discipline. And that helped me tremendously. So those two aspects, the focus and discipline helped me to write my novel. But I didn't necessarily put like anything in that culture within the story because again, it's like this is taking place 1970s. It's about a serial killer rapist. And like that whole aspect is just a different side of me that's interested in that, like true crime genre type of stuff.
So I wanted to ask you about your perspective as an outsider living in China. How did that shape that writing for you?
Hmm. I
Like
would say,
I know you mentioned that you were married to, I'm assuming, one of the locals, or you wouldn't.
my wife is from Dongbei. I met her actually in Shenzhen, the city before we moved to Songshan, Shaolin. So we
Mhm.
were living there, and there's a very big difference between those two cities. Shenzhen is extremely modern, like blows away New York City. Like it's
Yeah,
unbelievably modern. So then and then and
yeah,
this
yeah.
and then the Shaolin village, like people still have outhouses there. Like in the houses, the local houses, like they have outhouses, and they have a habit of going through the winter with no heat. Like they have heat, but it's expensive. The electric is expensive, so they just rough it through the winter with no heat, and it's like it gets to like 30 degrees down there. So they're like living with no heat in the winter, and they're like have outhouses. So it's like, and that's an environment that really, if you like this, if the culture makes it interesting and worthwhile, like if you were just going there for a job, you wouldn't want to be in that environment. But like as a martial art guy, I was like, yeah, that's cool. This is cool. And my wife is adventurous, and she eventually got a really cool job being a tour guide, taking people from UK into the Shaolin Temple. So that was cool. So like the culture makes it like worthwhile, but otherwise you'd be like struggling there. So that as an outsider, being in Songshan Shaolin, I would say it's also inspiring and it helps me writing like that because it's just such a unique experience, and you kind of feel like a special person. Like, oh wow, look at what I'm doing right now. I'm living in this historical place. I'm doing martial. There's very few foreigners who've ever lived there. There's been people visiting there, but as far as like foreigners training and living there, like I did, I might have, there's probably like a handful. If there, I don't know the history, but it's probably been like maybe 10 or I don't even or less maybe.
Yeah.
So that experience was really amazing, and that was like kind of boost my confidence, like and make me feel focused because again, if I did this here and I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't feel that fire, I wouldn't feel like inspired, and I wouldn't feel like I could do this. But that like kind of helped me believe in myself.
So I wanted to ask you about how hands-on were you when it came to the movie production?
Another great question. So we did basically all this remotely until I traveled.